if we followed the exact same procedures that your company has been doing for years, we'd fail.
Welcome to Builders, Budgets, and Beers. I'm Reece Barnes, and I started this podcast to have real conversations about money in the building industry, the wins, the mistakes, and everything in between. I believe builders deserve to feel confident about their finances, and that starts by hearing from others who've been through it too. This industry can be slow to change, but the right stories and the right tools can make profitability feel possible. Let's get into it. Alrighty, Bill. Mics are hot. We're rolling.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you, sir? Thanks for jumping on.
Good. Glad to be here.
Good. Okay, Bill. So, following process here. Go ahead and give the listeners a little background on Bill Mills, where you're from, what you do, how you were involved with the Fine Contractors of America. Just give them a little background on yourself.
Okay, great. Well, good to be here. I am joining Builders, Budgets, and Beers from Bozeman, Montana.
That's right, Southwest Montana.
Yep. And most people know where Bozeman is now, where they didn't not too long ago, but Bozeman's on the map. Bozeman proper is only about 50,000. It's a county seat, so it's about a market of about 100,000.
Okay.
And it's pretty vibrant. There's a lot of people want to move here. A lot of people watch Yellowstone, and so they want to move here and buy land and fight over water rights.
That's right.
And so with that,
question.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Bozeman, by the way?
29 years.
Okay, so you were before Yellowstone, so you've got to wear that with like a badge of honor. Like you've been here before the rush.
Oh yeah. There's been rushes over the years, but yeah, I did move here in the late 90s, and no kids, no mortgage. I moved here from Northern California, like a lot of people had. Before I moved here, actually, I don't know if I wrote. I tell the story like I wrote them. I probably called them, and the Bozeman Chamber of Commerce, which is great, which is a great organization I'm quite involved with. But this was back in the 90s, and they responded with a mailer, and it was basically a "You're not welcome" package, especially if you're from California.
That's kind of where I was going, so this is hilarious. Go ahead.
Yeah. Harsh winters, yeah, you're not going to make it. Good luck. And that galvanized me to move to Montana and make it work. But no kids, no marriage, so mortgage. Got married on the way up. Like literally driving up to Montana, we pulled over in Yellowstone, and I proposed. And
no way.
Yeah, yep.
That's Yellowstone. A great story.
Yeah. So that got me here, and then we found our way and found out this is a great community, great place to start a family, and pretty vibrant with any time you live somewhere where people want to live or move to, it's good for the economy and all the professionals that work in the economy.
Totally. Well, okay, so I mean that's like semi-answering where I was going here. But I was curious, like with you having been in Bozeman for nearly 30 years, obviously started a family there. You've been there through a lot of the rushes. Do you like Bozeman more today, or do you wish Bozeman was more like it was back in the 90s?
Yeah, no, I love Bozeman today. I loved it when I moved here, and there's old timers that anywhere. Any part of the country they long for yesterday, but if you live here, you're benefiting from the vibrancy and the change. And it is actually culturally quite a bit more diverse because we have a major university here, so there's just a lot to do. There's lots of different kinds of people from different parts of the world. And the university does make this place quite a bit more interesting, being a small town.
For sure. Okay, so that's great. So you are pro growth, which we'll be talking about on Builders, Budgets, and Beers.
Yeah,
primarily around construction companies.
Right.
Okay, but let's give them a little background. Okay, so we've got the how did Bill get to Bozeman? which
Mhm.
that could probably be a book one day. But tell them about your professional background.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm a CPA that works for a firm, so public accounting, and so we help small, mid-sized businesses with their needs. It's a full service firm, so we have traditional services, taxation, payroll, accounting, financial statement audits, but lots of specialty services.
Mhm.
So I found myself. Um, about 8 years ago, and I was asked by our CEO to start up a modern outsourcing practice. So my firm has been doing outsourced accounting services for 90 years, kind of the
Cool.
old way. And so this was really to address the market,
Mhm.
cloud hosted applications that are integrated, and before and after COVID, clients could work with their CPA remotely
Mhm.
in a cloud hosted environment. And then in communities like Bozeman, lots of places around the country, labor's tight. And clients, in-house controllers, bookkeepers, CFOs, there's a lot of turnover. And so it's it's great where it's not often, it's not infrequent, where you check in with the client and ask how it's going, and the controller's left, or the controller's on
Sure.
maternity leave, or we're growing, or we're not happy. And so it's nice to be able to offer an option. Have you thought about outsourcing? What's that like? So that is what I do. I'm a partner. My firm is Pinion. We are actually a global firm. We
Mhm.
have about a half a dozen locations in Australia, but otherwise
Oh,
we're really a national firm. And we're not a mega firm. We're top 60. We're in about 20 different states. And so I'm in what we call our Mountain West region.
which is fitting. Which is
Yeah,
fitting.
right, right. No,
Mountain Bill Mills. Love it.
yeah.
I love it. Okay, so you've got a ton of experience and background in the construction accounting world. Is that like what your background has been largely, is construction accounting, or what verticals do you work with?
Yeah, so I do specialize in construction contractors, and it's a great market for our firm. So we have a specialty team of professionals that just focus on the construction industry, and making sure that we have the services and the expertise to service our clients for whatever their needs may be. And often that may be introducing new ideas. Have you thought about this? Um, and so with that, we're always vetting um, new ideas and new tools. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is how I came in contact with you. Our worlds, we were in the same spaces, and we developed a relationship, opinion and adaptive, and it's been
Totally.
fantastic. So now we have a great a great tool to bring to the table, and we're excited for the clients that have um, implemented adaptive in their stack, and just talking to clients that aren't um, getting what they need and looking for a new solution. So it's great opportunity to talk um, to clients about this tool.
Yeah.
Uh, I was going to say, I was thinking about this. I was driving into the office this morning,
Yeah.
um, and so just more globally, and we can get more specific, but just on AI, and every day you read about something or big deals in the with the major players, but there is a lot of anxiety about AI,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of people of my era that I've heard them say, these are probably the same people that say I like Bozeman in the 90s. But they say, I'm glad I don't have to deal with AI. I'm glad I'm not just starting my career. And
Yeah.
maybe they've embraced that it's here, it's coming, but they're afraid of it. And actually it's in our life every day. and we don't even know it. We don't recognize it. Um, and just one small thing, but it's pretty iconic. Is I have season tickets to the Montana State University Bobcat football team, and
Love it.
that is just a great time. It's the only show in town, so the whole community comes to these games, and we happen to have 7 home games this year. And for whatever reason, my travel schedule, I'm traveling more this year, and I've missed some games. So with a couple clicks, I would list my tickets on SeatGeek, and
Yeah.
I don't have any relationship. I'm not endorsing SeatGeek, but I am because it's been good to me.
An authentic
But
endorsement.
but with a few clicks, you can connect and you can list your tickets on SeatGeek, and there was an option to select from, and it said, "Would you like our assistance with pricing your tickets to respond to the market?" And I said, "Yeah, let's try that." So I listed them about a week before the game, and every day the supply and demand would change of the tickets available, and the
Mhm.
price would change. And so that's AI. And
Totally.
yeah, and so I got top value for my tickets. I mean, I kind of feel bad because I don't buy tickets to make money and sell them, but I couldn't go to the game, and it just worked out. And I was actually shocked
Yeah.
what they went for.
That
But it's in our lives, and yeah, we all benefit from it.
100%. And that's an awesome example of AI. I guess creeping maybe has like a negative connotation to it, but it does. It creeps into your life in ways that you don't really think about. And I think
Mhm.
that's what can give consumers comfort, and AI not being overly intimidating. I mean, we at Adaptive, we built an AI native accounting software specifically for construction accounting. And a lot of people in the market look at construction, or the construction vertical being a fancy word for industry, right, is a very antiquated industry. It's a lot of blue collar, tech averse people that take pride in the skill and the product that they produce with their hands, right? And getting them to adopt or understand the value of technology and AI specifically can be a challenge, right? There's a lot of resistance to it. But I think what we're seeing a lot of traction in and a lot of adoption with is, if you think about it through the lens of like a blacksmith, right? Which is a 100-year-old, 150-year-old term, right?
Right.
It's like the person who's got the anvil over the fire, right? And this is where I'm totally uneducated with blacksmithing, but bear with me here. They're making horseshoes, right? They're making all types of metal products that are needed by consumers. And then here comes Henry Ford, right? With the Model T,
Right.
mass
Yep.
producing vehicles. And the blacksmiths are standing there saying, well, people are always going to need their horses until they don't. And now we're not making horseshoes, right, in a log cabin over a fire anymore, right? Those people adopt, and those skills that they have are still relevant. It's not like this entire wave of people were just completely out of work and the entire economy crashed, right? It's like people are adaptable. They're
Yeah.
adaptive.
Ha. Nice.
And
Nice.
and they shift to the market, right? And it's like, as the times change, what we're doing is we're making these tasks that were so mundane and took so much time to get people what they actually needed, which was a horse that could move them, right? To, you can relate it to accounting, is it's like, who actually wants to sit there with a stack of physical invoices the size of a dictionary to go through and analyze and discuss internally, just to categorize the cost, to then type it into a piece of software, to then export the reports for them to go back and analyze on, right? To whereas they could just forward it into software, AI is doing the bulk of the work. They're still the control mechanism, analyzing and adjusting, and they're getting to where they want to go faster, right? I think the bigger point here is how nice it is. Is it's like, if you still wanted to make horseshoes over a fire for leisure, you could. I think if you tried to extrapolate that into accounting, I don't think there are going to be many people in the accounting function that are excited or want to keep the art of physically job costing invoices as a part of their excitement, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
could, if that was like their pastime, like knitting, right? And they just want to sit in the lazy boy and thumb through invoices and categorize them, sure. But that's the application of AI, right? Is it's taking these mundane tasks out of the equation, doing them better, more accurately, doing them more efficiently, getting the consumer to what they're actually trying to look at, which is clean financials.
That's right. Yep. The
That was a hell
taxi
of a
cab
monologue.
unions. Yeah.
I need a glass of water after that. But
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I hope it came full circle. Go ahead.
Yeah. The blacksmiths and the taxi cab unions that did not embrace change, um, they got left behind.
Totally, totally. And you can argue. I think the argument is what makes it healthy, right? And it's like with the taxi drivers and Ubers, right? In the cities, especially like think of New York City, and it's like what is it like taxi medallions were like a massive asset and cost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It was like literally the investment into the business of being a taxi driver. And then Uber came through and disrupted it. But you talk to consumers and it's like I can be standing in a hotel bar needing to catch a flight at a business event, and 5 minutes before I need to go I hop on an app and say I need to get here, and someone sourced, located, and I can accomplish what I want, which is to get to the airport. That's pretty convenient.
That's
Instead
it.
of
Yep.
having to go to the hotel, right, and have them call a taxi, and then the taxi has to coordinate and okay, yeah, we got people here, like we'll go over here. And there's all this like lethargic bloat in the process to accomplishing what you actually want to do, which is just get somewhere.
Yep. That's it. Yeah, I got distracted. I had to bring that up.
It was a good
But
sidebar.
I wanted to get us back on task, but
Thank
just
you.
your description, that's your job.
Mm-hmm.
But I assist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but back to task, the typical contractors, back office with paper and people doing the same thing. When we talk to clients about outsourcing,
Mm-hmm.
um, there has to be a willingness to change.
Of
So
course.
we do look for that, and we do want to pick the right clients that think like us. But if they hire us, and we've learned the hard way, my firm, to perform some or all of your back office accounting operations, if we followed the exact same procedures that your company has been doing for years, we'd fail. We
Totally.
we would not be able, to do anything faster or better, and we would have a higher cost structure, so it wouldn't be a win. And so we need tools like Adaptive, and so that is really that's our value add, is that we have tools and experience working with technologies like Adaptive, that can make your accounting function. And we like to a perfect win is a better, cheaper, faster information to help you make tactical changes to your operations and confident decisions with your business.
100%. And that's a great tie back, because that's really again what matters is the construction world is such a low margin business, right? Every dollar matters. One job can tank a company, right? Those are all
Yes.
things those are things that you just hear, right? And that
Yep.
just emphasizes the importance of making that process of understanding your numbers that much more efficient, because it quite literally your business depends on it at that level.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, fantastic. So you've been in construction accounting forever. You work for a global accounting firm with a very strong presence in construction accounting. What are some of the areas that you see the most successful contractors winning in? What are they doing that's just like highlighted in a constant theme that you go, this construction company is going to win. They're going to be able to scale. They're doing everything right from a financial standpoint.
Yeah. Um, let me build up to that answer, because I wanted to
Okay.
kind of tell a story too.
Let's hear it.
Um, so one fun thing about living in Bozeman, Montana, we're 40 miles north. We're 90 miles north of Yellowstone National Park. Great treasure. We're
Mhm.
40 miles north of Big Sky, and Big Sky is a beautiful resort town with world-class skiing. And there is for the people that watch Yellowstone, um, they usually end up in Big Sky. It's
Mhm.
fancy. And so I have a great client that's not a contractor, um, in the Yellowstone Club, and the Yellowstone
Beautiful.
Club is a super high end, um, private member community with
It's like an
world-class.
elitist community.
Yeah, yeah. And world-class skiing. And they have a fantastic golf course community. Tom Brady hosts a golf tournament there every year, and people watch it. I don't know why, but that. So anyway, I go down once in a while, and not only to Big Sky, but I go into the Yellowstone Club, and there's security, and I have to get a badge. And so I'm there for a meeting, and where we meet in one of the conference rooms in the main lodge, which is fantastic. And the clients I'm working with are members. And after the meeting, I leave the lodge, and I'm leaving the club, about to leave the club, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've got a all access day pass to the Yellowstone Club.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful day in Southwest Montana. I'm gonna drive around and
Love
check
it.
this place out. And so I just got kind of lost driving around the different parts of the club and looking at these beautiful houses. And honestly, after I left the lodge, I don't think I saw another member.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but I passed different homes, I passed different vehicles, and they were all contractors.
Mm-hmm.
They were working on these homes at different stages of completion, and there was the roofers, the framers, the landscapers, the electricians, the drywallers, the supers, and they were busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, those were my people. I'm another service contractor in the club.
Yep.
And so the day got away from me, and I found myself, it's 5 o'clock, and I thought, well, I better get home and get some work done. So I'm leaving Yellowstone Club, and I'm going down the spur road to get on the interstate, the highway back up to Bozeman. And there's a stoplight to turn left. And I was at that light. It turned red and green 3 times before I could go through. And I was behind all these pickups. And
Yeah.
I was with my people. We'd done our work for the day, and we were all driving home to Bozeman.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, like, I wonder how much money all these different contractors are making. And the feeling is like they're making good money, and they think they are, or they are making good money. I think I saw bags of money falling out of the back of some of the flatbeds.
Out of these $80,000, $100,000 trucks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But things are good. So these contractors, no doubt, making good money, and it's easy. And so when things are good, times are good, make money.
Totally.
Construction is not as seasonal as it used to be. It can be in Southwest Montana, but you can still pour concrete when it's freezing out. But the industry, the market is cyclical. So times won't always be good. Clients don't call me or my firm when things are great. They call you when the bullets are flying, and they want you to jump in the foxhole with them. And that's my professional goal, is to be the guy, like their first call.
Yeah.
Bigs or bad, they're going to call their CPA. So when that happens, I know I'm doing something right. But nonetheless, when things slow down, when things are tight, that's the time to invest, to work in the business, not on the business. And so that's a time to look at your systems, your tools. What kind of information are you getting? How timely is it? Timeliness and accuracy compete. The more time goes by, the more accurate the information is. The more time goes by, the less valuable information is. But what does it take to generate a meaningful WIP report? What does it take to forecast jobs? So I guess back to your original question, is what are the most successful contractors doing? Is that they do work on the business at times, and to reinvent, to create better systems, to make the business more risk adverse, to do more of the things, to make decisions based on information that's timely and accurate, to make decisions to spend more of their time doing things that are more profitable, and doing little or no time on things that have thin margins or are a risk at loss.
Totally. And so when you're talking about working on the business and thinking about processes, systems, tooling, focusing on those areas that are high risk, low margin, that might be taking the most focus, like what are you seeing, again, the most successful builders making those decisions? Like, are they looking at WIP reports? Are they looking at budgets? Are they analyzing where their revenue is coming from and make those adjustments quickly? Are they methodical? Are builders missing those conversations? What do you see?
Yeah, I'm afraid many times they're missing those conversations because they don't have good data,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're going on feel, which a lot of times is one of the best indicators. But it's good to have data to back that up and say this is off the rails. We need to change, abort. Um, we need to do change orders. We need to rescope and stop before this thing gets worse.
For sure. Just stop, like recognize the bleeding, stop the bleeding.
Yeah, and your comment, like war stories about, all it takes um, is one bad job, and that
Mm-hmm.
that can sink the ship. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen right before my eyes, and it's when it's a surprise, when it's too late to know that this thing is off the rails and we can't turn it around. So you want to stay ahead of that.
Let's get some color. I like to try and bring this back into like tactical, like when we say off the rails or it's too late to recognize, like what does that actually look like? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What do we recognize to prevent that from happening? So the listeners, they can identify with it and they can say, oh shit, like this is something that I can act on. Before I let you answer, I'll give you an example. I was just in Minneapolis at the Housing First clay shoot. Housing First is essentially the Association of Home Builders in Minneapolis. They call it Housing First. And I was talking to one of our clients there, who they've been clients with us for over a year and a half, and they leveraged Adaptive to go through and do essentially like a forensic accounting deep dive. And they had uncovered, I think it was like $130,000 or $150,000 in cost that was duplicatively categorized as cost. So they had basically deflated their profit by 130,000 because they had duplicated that cost in their books. Is that what you see when like that's the job that could tank the business? Or when you say, like, what do you typically see that tanks businesses? Is it duplicate costs? Is it not billing for cost? Is it like, what is it?
That might not be a bad outcome if I understand you correctly, where um,
It's a good
there's not
surprise.
duplicate. Yeah, yeah. Hey, these have been accounted for. One cost has been accounted for twice,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's an accounting error that leads you to the wrong conclusion. But that's not reality. Reality is margins are in reality higher.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing, maybe to answer your question, is so war story with a local. This is a pretty big outfit. It's
Mm-hmm.
electrical contractor. They do some HVAC work, and they have pretty big civil jobs. And
Mm-hmm.
so one indicator is profit fade.
Okay.
So these are jobs that span over a year, and they're using percentage of completion contracting. And so year after year, as jobs complete, there's a huge profit fade on the back half of the job. And
Okay.
all the jobs that are, you know, 30, 40, less than 50% complete, everything's great. Their estimates are for solid profits. And so the estimates are wrong, the management's wrong. But if you are regularly having profit fade, jobs don't finish like we had planned for. You're not estimating correctly. You're not managing correctly. You probably don't have timely information to manage correctly. And so that's a real indicator that there's a problem in your system to give you the reliable data to make informed decisions about estimates. And then when those estimates vary from what you thought they'd be, you can confidently and swiftly address.
Okay, so profit fade. This is
Yep.
awesome. We should 100% dig into this because profit fade, like I can only imagine it's like contractors dancing in the streets 30, 40% of the way into the job. They're like, we're going to make hand over fist. We're going to walk out of this thing with a 15, 20% net on this. So it's going to be great. Where does it slip? Where does it fade? You're talking about management. You're talking about estimates. Like, what does that look like? Is it people with that false hope of like, we're going to make hand over fist money, and they let off the gas from a management standpoint, and that's where they start to get inefficient, and then that's where the fade happens? Or where does the fade happen, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it really might be all the way on the front end. Most
Front
important
end
part of the job is
estimating.
bidding. Yep.
Bidding. Okay. And so this is like, we just like erroneously like just missed or didn't consider cost.
That's it. Or things change. There's some out of scope stuff, but the estimates aren't timely addressed for that. So we don't have timely change orders, or we don't call a timeout and address on the front end before it's too late.
Okay. And then when it's too late, is that when we're at, and correct me if percentage of project completion is the wrong metric to follow here, but would you say that too late moment is at like 60, 70, 80% complete?
Yeah.
Or, okay, my light just turned off. I got to figure this out. I have like a motion sensor in my office and my light keeps turning off, whatever. Okay. So again, it's more on the front end side, but to me, I'm like, issue a change order, but in order to, that should just be practice, like budget aside, scope changes, whether it's a builder variance or a client variance, you should just be building and issuing a change order. Why doesn't that happen?
Well, if it's too late, you lose the leverage if you're not timely to negotiate, to reason, to be able to demonstrate what happened, whose fault it was. And
That
so
makes
if
sense.
you don't have the information, you don't know, and you can't have those conversations with the client.
And that's where having like, I'll just use like an estimate versus actual, right? Is like having an accurate, real-time, up-to-date estimate versus actual helps you in that scenario. So if a client does come and add scope to a project, that's where you can have that like immediate, definitive, we can 1000% do this, but this is the change order. This is what it's going to cost the project, and this is what it's going to do to the scope. So whereas if you don't have that estimate versus actual, or you're not uberly confident in the numbers that you're working with, that's enough for the internal process to get sloppy. Maybe we're not like bidding out change orders the way that we should, or getting them to the client in a timely enough manner. And that's where at the end of the project, it's like the client gets slammed with this huge change order invoice, and they're like, I'm not paying for this.
That's it.
Okay. Change orders aside, like estimating, what do you see from like the relationship between estimating and clean financials helping contractors prevent profit fade?
Is real. I mean, maybe you need an outside look, somebody to come in and say, to assess, and because people don't know what they don't know, and so they probably like everybody in their company and trust everybody's doing a good job, but a lot of times, if you have a perspective on how things could be different or better in your business, and I guess I'm looking through the lens of the accounting operation. Can you close your books in 1 week, in less than 15 days? But can you close your books in 0 days? That's world class. That means that all transactions are posted real time, and the systems are available to give you a really timely snapshot, where you're not looking back 30 days, 60 days, or worse.
Totally.
So I've seen it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then so like, do you know people that are closing books day zero?
Not really. That's just something kind of fun.
That's like world class, right?
Yeah. That's what you're aiming for. But no, but in reality, yeah, if you have transactions that get posted within the same week,
Hmm.
That's what you're shooting for. That to me, that's real time. Um,
Cool.
so that's 0 days out of touch, but it's like good to strive for.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's even like where you go in because I mean, we're like obviously what tomorrow is the last day for individual tax extensions, right?
Mhm.
To be submitted,
Yeah.
which I'm one of those people. I literally have to do my
Um,
taxes tonight.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're probably very well aware of that. But then also, okay, so it's like we've got extensions wrapped up tomorrow, but then it's like we're going to be looking at April in what I'm not a math guy. What is it? 6 months? It's almost exactly 6 months, right? Yeah.
That's it.
And there's like this wild scramble, right, to get books cleaned up and reconciled and ready for taxes. This is where the conversation for having weekly transactions posted is effectively real time postings. But just even having that prevents this wild scramble. When you see what are some of the war stories, whatever we want to call them, with builders that aren't tracking their financials in a weekly basis or able to close out books within 14 days of a month end, and how that compounds into this like mad dash from January to April to try and reconcile and close out the following year or the last year's books and be ready for a tax.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the focus, the biggest item should be on long-term profitability, avoiding risk, surprise lost jobs. But just so the bigger topic is planning, forecasting, you know where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And so the vitality of the profitability of the business is important. But in that planning um, sphere is also tax planning. And so if you know where you're at on the interim in Q4. There's things you can do. There is not any legitimate tax avoidance strategies, but there is lots of opportunities to defer taxes, and so you want to defer income in periods where you're in a higher tax bracket, accelerate income when you're in a lower tax bracket, or the tax legislation has some favorable items that you need to act on, while the tax rules are the same. So you lose that window for planning for tax. Sadly, it's not uncommon for contractors or really any small business clients to finish the year and really have no idea where they're at. And it's up, and they talk to their accountant once or twice a year,
Mm-hmm.
and the accountant gets kind of a mess, and they put it back together. And so it's March or later till you know really how you did last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just too late to do any kind of planning, not nonetheless tax planning. And you may have lost on some things, some tactical things you could have done within that tax year to save some bucks.
So that's the money conversation right there, right? Is
Yeah.
it's like the majority of small business owners, and correct me if I'm recapping this wrong, but the majority of small business owners, construction companies primarily, they're effectively checking the box, right? They're getting their taxes in April, and that's fine. Like taxes, they're in, they're compliant, sure, but they're missing because they're not running clean books in real time, because they're not properly reflecting and categorizing those costs and that income that's moving out and coming into the business. The opportunity they're missing is the ability to defer or accelerate their what would be
Income.
potential earnings and income.
Yep. That's it.
What does that look like from an outcome? Go ahead. Like if they were doing it right, what would the upside be?
Your overall effective tax rate and taxes paid would be lower.
And okay, for sure. And that's where it's like when people are like the tax avoidance is impossible. Like you're going to pay taxes, right? But it's like how do you defer as much as you can, right, to
That's it.
lessen that tax bill? Like, and I know this is like entity by entity, right? But let's just say from like a $10 million a year vertical new construction custom home builder, what could that outcome look like if they are like getting the most out of their tax deferred income or missing it? What are some numbers there if you could just give a ballpark?
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that, but meaningful, painful,
Yeah. I
something
mean, we're
that would
talking
get
like
your
to the
attention.
tune of like six figures.
Well, in a larger environment, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That, I mean, and that's like, and okay, so let me just like associate this, and this is learning for me, so this is great.
Yeah.
But let's say for a larger company, and they do their tax planning, and they've got clean books, and they're getting strategic with how do we defer income and like lessen our tax burden. You could essentially pivot what you would have paid for tax into investing more into the business. Is that the
That's it.
move?
Yep. Yep. You can hire that additional person. You can purchase more equipment, things that invest in the business, um, and yeah, cash flow. You're out of the line. You're saving interest, so it's compounding. Um,
I mean, this is like, to me, either you're gonna pay it in taxes, which no one wants to do, or you could deploy it back into the business,
that's it. Yep.
or you could run a less risky business from the cash flow conversation.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty meaningful. I think if we had to leave the listeners with any just like hard hitting advice with all your experience, Bill, what would the most actionable, most valuable next step be for them to consider? What advice would you leave them with?
Coming really from my lens, would be to take some time, and Q4 is a great time to do it. You're wrapping up seasonal jobs, but really take some time to work on the business. And so from my point of view, what does our back office look like? And are we getting what we need to make timely, to make confident decisions that are tactical and can have a difference in how we successfully complete jobs, how much tax we're paying, and honestly, that should be from an outside perspective, because you're too close to it inside the business. And one of the things I've learned, lessons learned over the years, is telling clients not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so it gets pretty delicate. Oftentimes in a small business environment, you've got good people that are out of position.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have somebody that's great that knows the business. They're not trained or skilled in accounting,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you've got them running the back office, and
Mm-hmm.
they're much more valuable in other areas of the business. So, and they know what they know, but they're not trained. They haven't seen hundreds of other contractors how they can do it. What are the best examples? What's the best way to pay vendors, make payroll, do WIP reports? And so having an honest conversation that this needs to be retooled. Mythbuster is really the investment in software is one, not terribly expensive, and then the payback is pretty amazing over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the most expensive thing is doing nothing and having people that you pay to do a job that's pretty below average.
Mm-hmm.
That's really expensive on a lot of different levels.
Totally. Well, and I think that's like if you're comfortable, I want you to give the contact information out, how they get in touch with Pinion with Q4 rolling around so that they can start opening up those conversations. But I think the point that you had mentioned is like, especially in construction, it's a very binary lens that builders and business owners typically take, which is like, if we're talking about software, we're talking about service, or we're talking about whatever, it's a common conversation of like, well, I'm paying somebody this, and you're suggesting that I add this cost. I'm already getting it done and it's cheaper, but it's like, That's like saying that every plumber is the same and the cheapest plumber is the best plumber. It's
That's it.
like
Yep.
you could get the cheapest plumber in, but you're going to have them out every 6 months for leaks or issues or whatever. And when you look at the cost of actually like taking care of plumbing in a home, it's going to be more expensive than had you just paid for the guy that knew what he was going to do and you're going to do it right. So it's like getting that outside perspective, getting the professionals in, getting people to cross check, right, what's happening in the business, and then be open and receptive enough to believing what the outside advisory is, which is maybe you start with tax strategy. You start outsourcing your tax work. The tax professional is going to look at this and be like, you're missing the boat on a lot of this stuff because of these internal processes. Here's what we advise. Taking that to heart and recognizing that there is going to be some upfront cost to it, but the outcome is a more reliable business and a more healthy business that you're running.
That's it.
Beautiful. How do people get in touch with Pinion, Bill?
A website,
Okay.
so pinionglobal.com. And my name is Bill Mills. I'm on the website. And
Bill's a
happy to
celebrity
talk.
opinion. Bill's a celebrity opinion. Okay, so opinion. And guys, we can post this in the show notes as well. But definitely, I mean, we've been working with Pinion. They run a class act shop. We love the partnership that we've built, and super excited to get your tax and audit team on the WHIP tool to help accelerate tax and audit season. But I appreciate you, Bill. This has been awesome. I'll let you get back to your day, but always good catching up with you.
Thank you very much, Reece. Nice talking to you.
You bet. We'll see ya.